Hello friends, I hope that your summer is going well so far. This is the time of year when summer blockbuster movies come out. I always wonder what will come out, in the coming summer when it's about to begin, start looking for the trailers. I heard the other day that term, the summer blockbuster, got started actually with the advent of air conditioning. And people would flock to the movie theaters in the summer because they were some of the first buildings to install air conditioning. Sort of an interesting factoid. But one of the big movies that has come out this year is the most recent edition of the Jurassic Park franchise. This one is called Jurassic World Rebirth. Can't wait to see it. I've liked all of those movies, really. Everyone is a little different but fascinating, and the thought of bringing dinosaurs back to life through genetic engineering and the consequences when inevitably some of them get loose and, start eating people. It's always very action-packed, I guess. But one of the interesting parts of the movies is the thought that our understanding of dinosaurs has improved over time. We've learned more about them. Just this week, I actually saw an article that scientists recently discovered the whole tail of a small dinosaur completely encapsulated in amber. And in the picture, it clearly had feathers on the tail. Yes, feathers. Now, I've read before, of course, that modern birds are the closest living relatives to the dinosaurs, and that some dinosaurs were quite feathered. As a matter of fact, the Aeropteryx, for example, almost looked like a little, long-tailed chicken running around on the ground. They were small. But they've also found fossils of these skeletons that included the imprint of feathers in the fossil itself. So quite a change from our thinking in ages past of dinosaurs as basically just ancient giant lizards or something. So being a pastor instead of a paleontologist, it makes me think a little about our own typical understanding of the world of the Bible. That was in the past. It's something that a lot of our understanding are things that we have to discover through archaeology and all those kinds of sciences. For example, in worship recently, we are reading through the stories of Elijah, who was a prophet during the reign of King Ahab in the northern kingdom of Israel. And I mentioned that despite what the Bible says about King David's great military conquest and his son Solomon's great, world-renowned wisdom and his building of this beautiful temple, there's actually no contemporary, during their time, contemporary mention of them from the surrounding nations. No one else was really paying them any attention. Why is that? Well, that leads us to believe that David and Solomon were probably more like powerful tribal leaders, or maybe a warlord in David's case, and their kingdom was quite small and relatively inconsequential compared to the surrounding superpowers of their day, like the Phoenicians and the Egyptians and the Assyrians. Those everyone knew about. So the first mention of Israel outside of the Bible is of Ahab's father, Omri, who began a building program and sought to make his kingdom sort of more respectable, something which his son Ahab continued, including his marriage to Jezebel, which would have been sort of a diplomatic alliance during those days, those kinds of marriages. That doesn't mean that people like David and Solomon weren't important to the story of God's people. Certainly they were, but we should also understand them in their realistic context. There are all kinds of other things that archaeologists can tell us as well. For example, even though the Bible speaks of 600,000 fighting age men not including women or children or old folks, crossing into the promised land with Joshua. More recent detailed studies show us pretty well that the land and farming in those areas in that time could not support anywhere near that many people. It seems likely that in the early days of Israel, there were only a few, maybe tens of thousands of them settled in the hill country of Judea. So what does all of this mean? Well, as a connection to that Jurassic World movie coming out, I would say that we have plenty of evidence that dinosaurs existed. We know that is unquestionable for us. But our understanding of them has evolved and grown over time as discoveries are made. Well, in the same way, for me, the archaeological evidence of Israel and its worship is inspiring. The connections between the things that we read in the Bible and what we know of ancient history in regards to things happening in Egypt during those times, and the Assyrians and the Babylonians, and the tie-ins to the biblical accounts that mention those other great events going on around them, it gives me a conviction that those people really did exist. And they really did worship the God Yahweh. And some things really were happening, big things to which they gave Yahweh credit. So, as we think through all of this, while some of the biblical accounts are, I would say, understandably a little off in some of the hard facts, I believe it wasn't really their purpose to write what we would think of as a modern history book. They were telling their story about themselves and about God, and learning more about their real existence, to me, serves as a confirmation of the bigger reality, and confirmation of my own faith, rather than casting doubt just because they got some of the details wrong here or there by our standards, or events were misinterpreted a little, stories were passed along in their day. It would have been orally, from generation to generation to generation. It really does amaze me that people have been talking about this God of ours, this God of Jesus, for well over 3,000 years now. That is pretty inspiring to me. So friends, I hope you all have a great week and go catch a good blockbuster movie if it gets too hot outside. Bye now.